Hi, in today's video, we'll cover this very special topic of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is an event that almost led to the nuclear war. In October 1962, the world stood on the brink of destruction. For 13 terrifying days, two superpowers, the United States and Soviet Union, faced off in the most dangerous confrontation of the Cold War. It was called the Cuban Missile Crisis. After World War II, the Cold War divided the world in two camps: the capitalist West, led by the United States, and the communist or socialist East, led by the Soviet Union. In 1959, Fidel Castro overthrew the pro-American dictator Fulgencio Batista and established a socialist state in Cuba, which was just 90 miles from Florida. At first, the United States hoped to influence Castro, but when he nationalized American businesses and turned to Moscow for help, Washington reacted with hostility. In 1961, the US supported a failed invasion at the Bay of Pigs, where Cuban exiles attempted to overthrow Castro. The invasion ended in disaster, humiliating President John F. Kennedy and pushing Cuba even closer to the Soviet Union. For Nikita Khrushchev, leader of the USSR, this was an opportunity, and nuclear weapons stationed near enemy territory. The US had missiles in Turkey and Italy, pointed directly at Moscow. Khrushchev wanted to even the score. On October 14, 1962, an American U-2 spy plane flew over Cuba and captured shocking photographs. The images reveal Soviet medium-range ballistic missiles, which were capable of carrying nuclear warheads that could reach most of the continental United States in minutes. When Kennedy saw the photos, he realized that the balance of power had shifted dangerously. For several tense days, the US secretly debated on how to respond. Some military advisors urged airstrikes and invasion, which would result in a full-scale attack on Cuba. Others, including Defense Secretary Robert McNamara, that such a move could trigger World War III. On October 22, Kennedy went public. He informed the American people of the missile sites in Cuba and announced a quarantine, a naval blockade to stop further Soviet shipments of weapons. US warships surrounded Cuba, nuclear bombers were placed on high alert. Across the world, people held their breath. In Moscow, Khrushchev denounced the blockades as an act of aggression. Soviet ships loaded with missiles and supplies steamed towards the island. The fate of the world now depended on whether those ships would stop or break through. For 13 days, the world balanced on the knife's edge. In Washington, Kennedy and his advisors met constantly in Executive Committee of the National Security Council, known as EXCOM. Each day brought new tension. American forces prepared for invasion. Soviet missiles in Cuba were being assembled faster than expected. The press speculated about the end of the world. On October 24th, US naval forces intercepted Soviet ships, but the ships stopped just short of the quarantine line. The first sign that negotiation might still be possible. Which was the first sign that the negotiation might still be possible. Behind the scenes, secret messages were exchanged between Kennedy and Khrushchev. Khrushchev sent two letters, one emotional and conciliatory, another more demanding. In the first, he offered to remove the missiles if the US promised not to invade Cuba. In the second, he demanded that the US also remove its missiles from Turkey. The situation worsened when an US U-2 plane was shot down over Cuba on October 27th. That same day became known as Black Saturday. Perhaps the most dangerous day in human history. Many in Washington urged immediate retaliation, but Kennedy resisted. He chose diplomacy over destruction. After hours of tense back-channel communication, a deal was reached. On October 28th, Khrushchev agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba. In return, Kennedy publicly promised not to invade Cuba and secretly agreed to remove American missiles from Turkey within a few months. The crisis was over, the world had stepped back from nuclear war, but that was just barely. The Cuban Missile Crisis changed the course of the Cold War. Both leaders realized how close they had come to annihilation. In 1963, Washington and Moscow established the Hotline, a direct communication link between the White House and the Kremlin, to prevent such misunderstandings in future. In the same year, both sides signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, marking a small but vital step towards détente. For Kennedy, the crisis was a victory of measured strength and diplomacy. For Khrushchev, it was a strategic retreat, but also a demonstration of Soviet determination. For the rest of humanity, it was a terrifying reminder of how fragile peace could be in the nuclear age. In conclusion, these 13 days changed the world. The Cuban Missile Crisis was more than a confrontation between two nations. It was a moment when the fate of the world hung in the balance, when human judgment, fear, and reason collided. It showed that leadership, communication, and restraint can make the difference between war and survival. And though decades have passed, its lessons remain clear. When nuclear weapons exist, every decision matters. And with this, I thank you for watching. Goodbye.